Well, yes, indeed. Thank you, Mark. So this next focus, if you deal with the banks, either have a bank account or you pay money through banks, this should interest you. We've got Mr. Anyanwu here with us. He's the former executive director of Mainstream Bank and is also the CEO of My Street. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
Well, this is a matter that when lots of people saw it and heard it, they thought, whoa, how come? It's that the CBN says they recovered 50 billion naira of excessive bank charges. And thought, those who asked me, wait a minute, do you mean 50 billion? And you know that CBN has always been saying that banks must stop excessive charges to their customers. But 50 billion, those who thought, oh my God, these banks are killing us.
Well,
this is what's going on, isn't it?
Okay, Chamberlain, thank you very much. 50 billion is a lot of money. And with about 22 banks, that comes to about an average of 2.something billion per bank. But
from customers?
Yeah,
excessive
but
bank charges?
That's not how it works out. Some banks will have higher, some banks will have lower, some banks have more customers. But I like to situate, 50 billion is a lot of money, but I would like to situate the situation properly.
Yeah.
Before 2003, we had 2013, sorry, we had bankers' tariff, which was issued by the central bank. From 2013, we had guide to bank charges, which was issued because we are moving to a market-driven economy. Now, that guide to bank charges has been revised in 2017, and the 2017 guide to bank charges is much more comprehensive. It has removed a lot of, some of the inconsistencies that were either in the earlier guide to bank charges or in the earlier bankers' tariff. Now, the CBN Consumer Protection Unit was set up about 3-4 years ago. So when they say they have recovered 50 billion in 3 years, there is part of the information that is not included in that.
What could that be?
And that part of the information is that there is no limit to the time for which you will ask a bank to refund you if they have overcharged you. So this 50 billion relates to charges, excess charges, dating back as far back as 15 years ago. But because you now have a consumer protection unit in central bank that says, listen, we look at this, did you take this charge illegally? If it is illegal, reverse it. So that's why you have 50 billion. That's why it looks like, oh, in 3 years, banks have stolen 50 billion from their customers. Okay. That's not true. So it's accumulated excess charges over a long period of time before the Consumer Protection Unit was set up. That's one. Number two, we bankers, when we lose our jobs, we form consultancies. So we go tell customers to say, I think these banks were overcharging you. So you work with the bank. Let me look at your statement of account. I think they overcharged you here, charged you here. So now there's a CBN Consumer Protection Unit. So you articulate the thing, send it. Charges of 10 years ago, everything was accumulated, reverse it.
So does that mean that excessive charges is like institutionalized in the banks?
It's not institutionalized. There were lacunas in the previous tariffs that could be misinterpreted. That's one. Number two, some of these charges were excess loan charges. Now, you and I have an agreement that I give you a loan as a bank, you're going to pay interest of 21%. And there are maturities. As your loan matures, you are not paying those installments. Those ones begin to attract penal charges.
No, but how many people get loans from banks these days? No, the figures are not that much.
No.
Is it?
Chamberlain, no. The major business of bank is giving loans. There is no bank that doesn't have more than 50% of its total deposits in loans.
Because lots of people who were asked, they
no.
don't get loans from
Nigeria
banks.
has 100
at how many? Over
million people.
Double-digit interest rates?
No. Nigeria has 181 million people.
How many are banked?
Now, out of these 181 million people, I'm not sure that up to 20% of them qualify to get bank loans. Now, the loans go to the corporate organizations who have the capacity to borrow.
Are you suggesting that that's where the bulk of these excess bank charges come from?
Okay. The excess bank charges come from interest,
from regular daily customers,
commissions on turnover, and other charges. Okay? So, but the bulk of them come from interest charges.
Okay. Tell us,
loan-related charges.
Why is it that
I am saying the 50 billion naira is not a 3-year charge.
But it's still a lot of money.
Charges,
no matter how long,
over
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I agree with you, it is. But this has been taken care of by the new guide to bank charges.
Why is it that banks don't let their customers know what these guidelines are?
No, banks do.
Of the charges?
See, with the new guide to bank charges, everything is clearly spelled out. There will be no room for...
Mr. Anogwi, can ask people here, many of them will tell you they never heard it before of these guidelines, where you go, because what they usually ask them is they get all sorts of information for the customers, but they never give you some of those unless you just deliberately say, no, I want to see this. And in cases where you request, they don't get it.
Chamberlain, you know, in Nigeria we don't read. And when I say we don't read, I mean every one of us. The guide to bank charges were released in April. It was advertised in all the newspapers. It was everywhere. It was published on the CBN website. It came into effect on May 1. But I can tell you that a lot of bank staff don't even know what is contained in those tariffs. A lot of bank customers don't know what is contained in those tariffs. But it is our duty as banks and bank staff and customers, log into the website, read this guide to bank charges, because if you clearly define what you are doing with your bank, there will be no room for excess bank charges. I believe that with the new guide to bank charges, that the era of excess charges will be over.